The idea that we really do have talent, I mean, that's a really scary thing, that we really can move the needle, that we really can produce something great. Because if that's true, then the onus is on us to do it, you know? And I think fear of success, even though I can't say exactly why, is the greatest fear, you know? More than fear of failure, I think. But I can't really say why. It's so scary, but it is scary. It's a real responsibility. And if you don't bring it forth, it's an insult to God, to the universe, to ourselves. You know, it's a terrible insult. Like you say, the graveyard, you know, is full of people that didn't bring it forth because they were afraid. They were afraid that it would be great.
It's so interesting. I wonder if we can spend just a little bit more time on this and see if we can come to any understanding as to why.
What do you think? What is fear of success? Why is it so powerful?
I mean, I can imagine that we just have so much conditioning around what it would mean about all the times where we didn't live up to our potential. You know, if we're in our midlife and we just realize the power of our being, what does that mean about what we spent the rest of our life doing? That we, you know, lived a thwarted life the rest of it? That's kind of a painful reality pill to swallow. So maybe that's one thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, another thing I can think of is that in a democracy, we're always taught that, you know, we're all equal, right? So, and it's the sort of the tall poppy syndrome, right? If anyone that stands out becomes immediately, oh, he's an egomaniac, and let's cut him down to size. And also you sort of think to yourself, well, if I dare stand out, what does that mean? That I think I'm better than my buddies. You know, I'm better than my mother and my father. I'm better than my brother and sister, better than my wife. You know, you don't want to be in that, you know. Maybe that's a fear. I do think that some people, I can't really relate to this myself, but I've certainly heard this before, that people are afraid to stand out because they're afraid they'll be better than their father or better than their mother. You know, it's like, why, you know, that's a terrible thing, you know?
Yeah.
What, I left them behind, or they weren't good enough, or people that loved me and brought me into this world. And so you say, well, I better not be better than they are, you know? Maybe that's part of it. I'm just sort of guessing, you know?
No, I definitely feel like so many of us think there's something noble in minimizing our light or our ability to shine because it might make other people uncomfortable, which is a reflection and a trigger really for them to realize why that is. Earl Nightingale has that quote along the lines of, in modern society, the opposite of courage is not cowardice, but conformity. And I feel like that really is true. It's so comfortable to conform and to just fit in.
Yeah.
You
know, I think as we're talking about this, I'm thinking that I've always been fascinated by the character of Alexander the Great. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons, I think, you never really know kind of why, but he was somebody that had no fear of success. I mean, from the time he was like 10 years old, he said, I'm going to conquer the world. You know, my father's already halfway done it. I'm going to put him in the shade. I'm going to do it. And that sort of was, I guess, really appealed to me because I must have some of that kind of aspiration myself, but was afraid, or am afraid, to embrace it. And so I sort of was fascinated by this character that wasn't afraid at all. Now, here's another thing. I'll throw this out there. Maybe this will spark more conversation between us. The concept of the daimon, D-A-I-M-O-N, right, which is a Greek word that means a kind of an inhering spirit that sort of is us, but is not us in a way. And the Latin equivalent of that is the word genius, like if we think of Leonardo da Vinci or whatever. And Alexander definitely talked about his daemon, and that it was like Alexander with quotation marks, and that whatever this spirit was, it was capable of things. There was something monstrous about it. It was capable, it had no fear. It was capable of real cruelty. It was capable of great events, great achievements that the actual Alexander might not have, dared to do. And he was simultaneously intoxicated with this daemon and also afraid of it, because if he felt like this was kind of madness, if you sort of gave yourself over to this force, maybe that has something to do with why we fear success. Maybe we sort of feel like, you see people in this world like Trump, that it's out of control in them. They are just malignant egomaniacs, and we think, oh, fuck, I don't want, what if I were to let that genie out of the bottle? Maybe that's part of why we're afraid. But we are afraid, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think so much of it is a perceived death too. Like, to become the big capital S self, the small ego self has to experience death to some degree, right?
Yeah,
which is scary.
completely, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is that though? If we're leaving the small ego behind, I would hope we're going into the self with a capital S, which would be a positive thing.
Yeah.
But there's always a devil, to go with the angel.
Yeah.
Maybe we're afraid of
demons and daemons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are great questions, Andre.
Yeah.